I'm Kaylee, and I write fantasy and science fiction novels.
And I'm Erin, and I write poetry and fantasy fiction.
And today we are going to talk about how we got started as writers. So, Erin, when did you know that you wanted to write books?
When I was really young, actually, I think there was like one turning point when my grandparents kept this drawer of watercolor supplies. And when we would go over there, I would just like do watercolors or whatever while my mom was talking to them. And so one time I just started painting like a bunch of scenes and put them all together, made a little picture book out of it. And I showed my mom, I was like, look, I've written a book. And she was just like, okay, great. And I was like, so that's it, right? We put it in the store now. And she's like, no, there's so many steps after that. And I think for some reason after that, I was like, oh, this is what my life's gonna be about now.
You're like, this is gonna become my whole identity.
I was like, actually, I found the thing. But I'm really, ever since then, I've just been like, no, okay, I think that is it. That's what I want to do. So it's been for a while.
Do you remember what it was about?
I do. I think that's for a different question.
Oh, okay, we'll save it. A little, stick to the end. A little teaser.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how about you? How did you know, or when did you know that you wanted to write?
I think I was probably older. It's probably not until I was like 13 or 12 or 14. Somewhere around that age. Somewhere around the middle school or early high school age. Probably middle school. Around the middle school age. Because when I was in elementary school, I was obsessed with reading. And all I would do, I was homeschooled, so I finished all my school at like 12. And then I would just sit and read. And I read like 4 or 5 books every day. Wow. And yeah, I was very obsessed. And I told my mom, I was like, I want to just read books all day for my job. And she was like, oh, well, you could be an editor. That's what they do. And I was like, sick. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to read books all day. And then around middle school, I don't know where I got the idea that I wanted to be a writer. I think it was from, I read a bunch of, I had a little laptop and I read a bunch of blogs and stuff about like storytelling and tropes and fiction because I just thought it was super entertaining. And I think all of that eventually I was like, oh, I want to do this. Yeah. So I don't think I could pinpoint a specific moment, but I think it was a culmination of reading a ton and then reading a bunch about stories that I was like, I've got to do this.
Yeah. Nice.
Hey, so especially since you said super young you made that watercolor book, how did wanting to write look as you were growing up?
A lot of partial projects. Yeah. I don't remember what happened like right after that first time, but I remember when I was in like 3rd grade, there were some, I remember a couple of stories like I tried to write at that point, and I remember like drawing all these little characters or whatever for the story.
Nice.
And I think it was supposed to be like a 7-part detective series. I think I was into Nancy Drew at that point. And so that was probably where that came from. But yeah, so I remember I would write like a chapter of that and be like, great, I've got an idea for the book that comes 3 books later. Let me write that.
Wow.
And so it's just kind of like, it was just a hodgepodge mess. So really what it amounted to was I just had a bunch of these little like snippets of projects, and I think it wasn't until like middle school that I was like, oh, plotting? we come up with an idea for the whole story before we start. And I didn't get very far with that either since it was middle school. I think the first time I really was like, I'm writing a story, I'm gonna get to the end of it, was like high school doing NaNoWriMo, which I didn't get to the end of it, but I wrote like 26,000 words on it in total, which and I think I did that within like a summer or whatever. So maybe not all of it during the summer, but the bulk of it over like one summer. So that was the most like concerted effort I made, like I guess in my childhood. So I didn't finish any projects when I was a kid, but it was just like, it was interesting because it's like I did keep having like different ideas and like continued to want to do it. It's not just like I was like, oh, out of spite from the watercolor thing not happening immediately, I was like, I'm gonna do this. It was like, no, I think it was just that like it really just did stick, and I just kept trying. I just, when you're a kid, you don't have as much stick to it power as you do when you're older. So yeah. What about you? How did that look for you?
I think similar. I never finished anything, right? At least writing wise. I did have one thing that's interesting, like thinking about it just now as we're doing this video, like I realized, oh, it really is like storytelling in general and not just writing. Because when so I have 3 younger brothers, and when we were little, we made a lot of movies. And I was always the writer and the director as the oldest. So we did make lots of movies. We had, and I also did little like stop motion animations on like paint, where it was just, which is not really an animation, but because it was stick figures, because I was like 9, but it was just, there's one about these 2 little stick figure guys, and they find a rock, and one of them thinks it's a pet, and the other one's like, that's just a rock. And the other one's like, oh, it's okay, I still love you, Rock. And that was the whole story. So I did a lot of that. Also did a lot of project hopping. And a lot of writing that was just like, I guess that kind of I was going to say it was short stories, but it was almost like vignettes of like, just like, here's this thing happening, and like, here's like different chapters. But yeah, I think my very first thing, I also didn't have a concept of a plot, and it was just like, a family is going on a vacation. Here's what they're doing. But like, there wasn't a story. It was just, this is happening. And then I never finished. In high school, I had 2 ideas that I never finished or got super far into. So lots of project hopping. I feel like.
So many projects, so much time to have written so many projects. What was your first book about?
So that depends on what we're counting as my first book. So I had, like I said, just some random stories that I wrote with and like told to my brothers. And then I had they were about a kid on vacation. Nothing happened. They just would run into little funny things. And then I did picture books. I had one that was about a ninja frog named Steve. That was a picture book. It started off as like just a little story that I then was like, this could be a picture book. And then I had one that was the first thing that I like wrote and like finished. That was also intended to be a picture book that I like did some paintings for. And it was about these fairy tale characters that all end up like, the narrator's like, once upon a time there was a princess, and then she pops up and she's like, hey, wait a minute, what about this thing? And so each character that gets introduced argues with the narrator about their role, and once they want a different part of the story. And because this was, I still think it was pretty good. But also because this was like the early 2000s, or the late aughts, I guess. This is the early 2000s. This was a long time ago. And I had Microsoft Word on my laptop that I had. That was pretty old. And I was like, every character has a different font and a different color. And I thought it was genius. I was like, this is brilliant. I can't believe no one's done this before. And then later, my first like novel that I attempted to write was fantasy. And it was going to be a subversion of the Chosen One trope. And I was like, okay, what if, these farm guys in these stories, they always end up having these magical powers, these magical blessings they get from their parents who end up being magical. It's like, what if this guy is cursed because his dad did something really terrible before he was born, and now he's stuck cursed? And that was kind of it. That was the whole only concept I had for the story. I didn't have like a thing that he was trying to do. Or like, I think there was, like, he wanted to get rid of the curse, but I think I was like, there needs to be another bigger plot. Like there was a different guy who was maybe actually the chosen one. I'm not sure. I only wrote like 1.5 chapters for it because I had just the concept for the character and no like world or plot. So yeah, that's my long answer to that question.
No, that's fine. That's good.
How about you? What was your first book?
Well, similarly, I'm gonna hit a couple of different examples of whatever the first one was.
Yeah.
So the watercolor one.
Oh yeah.
From what I remember, which I could be remembering it wrong because this was so long ago, but I think it was just about like, which is, it's strange to me that this was what it was because this isn't how our like experience was like with Christmas, because it was about Christmas.
Oh, cute.
It was like, well, it was like that all of the, I had a lot of cousins, or have a lot of cousins. That didn't change between now and then.
That's good. I'm glad you still have them.
I've actually increased in cousins. But like for some reason it's just this scenario where it was like this group of cousins from this family, they're all having this, like they all stay in the same house like from Christmas Eve to Christmas, and so they all have this big sleepover, but there's one evil cousin and he just like ruined Christmas or whatever, and then they have to like, you know, before Christmas is over, they like redeem it, I guess. They like undo what the cousin did, and I think it was like the thing that he did that was so bad, I think it was just like it was something dumb. I don't remember. I think it was like kind of gross, but it was like not anything super sinister. It was just whatever the 5-year-old mind can conjure.
Like, this is the worst thing a human can do. And
Christmas is ruined. Yeah. And I don't know where that came from, but that's what it was about, from what I recall. Let's see. As far as like, so I think I mentioned like middle school, tried to actually write a story at that point. That one, similarly to how my 7-part detective thing was probably because I was reading Nancy Drew a lot. I was reading a lot of the Gallagher Girls series, which I still love those. Those are so good. Like, you know, they're middle grade books, but I would read the first one.
Nice. I've never read them, so I don't know, but
they're pretty good.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just about there being like a spy school, except what was different about this one is that it was like the Gallagher Girls, it's like an all-girls spy school, and I was like, we don't need that. It was just, I'm not creative enough to figure out how to like, I don't know, I was like, I need like a wider variety of characters here, I guess, but I didn't get very far into that, and now thinking back on it, I'm like, it's probably borderline plagiarism. But
I feel it's okay for middle school.
Yeah,
they're just experimenting.
Yeah, I said, write what you know, I'm gonna take that up a notch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And then I guess like saying like kind of like what you were saying, I guess the first one that was like a bigger project, I guess, the one that I was like writing in high school was, it kind of concerns me to explain it because it sounds really dark, but it wasn't actually like that way, I think, if you like went back and read it. Also partially because it's like super cringy because I was like 14 and thought things were important in a book that aren't. So, but it was about this girl who would have like, she had some condition which I could never figure out because I was like, I didn't know like any of the scientific stuff about it, but she would like fall asleep very often, and she would have these nightmares when she fell asleep, and whatever happened to her in her nightmare, like if she was injured, she would wake up and have like a older version of that, like a partially healed version of whatever the injury was, and so it was like, yeah, and so it's like she's having all these like near-death experiences, and then she's just like, I'm just in high school, like what?
That's kind of a fun concept.
It was, but then like it lost steam at the end because like I had her have to like live in like her like little dream world for a little bit, and then I was like, well, I don't know how to I couldn't like the world building there because it was like we had gone from real world to like this fake thing, and then that's where I lost the steam. I didn't know how to do that at that point, and I was just like, this is already probably too far gone. So yeah,
endings are hard.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's cool. 26,000 words though. That's a lot.
Yeah. It was I don't know.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it got out of reality, or her going in and out of it, I was just like, well, okay, that's it for that.
Yeah, this is too complicated.
Yeah, probably that, and school started again, and I was just like, oh no.
You're like,
So,
yeah. Man, interesting. I like that we both had like a lot of different things that could like, this technically isn't a book, but it was before the first book.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder how common of an experience that is.
Yes. Yeah.
So in the comments,
yeah,
you can let us know. So, what has been your biggest hindrance in writing?
Man. I think before it was just not knowing how to approach it well. like as a kid, I guess being like, oh, I'm just gonna do this, and like not having any planning, which I'm not like a super like have to plan everything out before I can start it writer now. I guess what has been, I guess we'll kind of accept or make an exemption of all the like childhood stuff because like we have other constraints at that point, like, you know, being a kid in school.
Yeah,
and
most
all that.
kids don't finish the book. And that's like, you know, that's just, but some kids do, and more power to them.
Yeah.
But most don't.
Dang, Christopher Palin.
Yeah, I was so mad at him.
You were like, why can't I do it?
I know, I don't think he's that much older than me, or maybe he is.
Yeah.
I don't know, I read Aragon maybe I was like, when did Aragon come out? Now this is a huge tangent.
Because I think he was like
sorry.
17 when he finished it.
He
Isn't
was.
that right? So like on the border of being a kid, like I feel like, I don't know, probably not a fair comparison.
Oh, 2002. Okay.
Yeah.
So it came out, he's significantly older than me. But
Yeah.
when I read it, not that much younger than he, I read it when I was like 15, and you know, he published it when he was 17, and I was like, you know that, anyway, I was about to say, you know, like in Fairly Odd Parents where they're like, Dinkelberg.
Yes!
That was me. I was like, Christopher Paolini. Why can't I do this?
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, that's a random tangent.
Who would have thought we had a Fairly Odd Parents reference in here?
Yeah, anyway, your hindrance
Biggest
is writing.
hindrance.
Yeah.
I think now my biggest hindrance is thinking I have to be in a certain headspace or mood to write. Some of that is just we are generally moody people, I guess, and so sometimes I'm like, don't want to do that right now. That and just like the inner critic, you know, like I do struggle a little bit with like trying to edit my writing while I'm going, which I mean, I think there's pros and cons to that. People have different takes on that. I don't think you can't ever do it and then continue, but I think like the way that I do it, I definitely like get stuck pretty often doing that. And then I think just kind of like not letting it be bad. I want it to be good on the first try. I don't want to have to go back and rewrite it. But also I think when I like heard about people doing like different drafts, like writing a second draft, I thought they meant like, I'm going to start this draft, write the whole book, and then I'm going to throw that all out and start over. And so like learning that that's not what the process is, but it's more like, oh, you just go rewrite this scene or you go rewrite this. I think that has helped a little bit make it less intimidating to just like have a bad first draft. But I think that's where I get stuck, is being like, no, I want it to be exactly as it is in my head on this page, and you just can't make that happen all the time. So
Yeah, that's a good point. And I can relate to that somewhat for myself. I feel like, I mean, I still get stuck in writing. I think all writers get stuck with writing at some point. But I was stuck for a really long time. Honestly, from like high school to after graduating college, I like couldn't ever finish anything and like really struggled to make myself write. Because I think in high school, like I had that story about the guy with the curse, and then I was like, this is not going anywhere. This is bad. And so then I started another story. There was a sci-fi story about clones, and then I was like, this isn't going anywhere. This is bad. And then I started another story that was like a mystery in like that maybe is an alternate dimension, maybe a different fantasy world. And then that turned into a different story that was a sci-fi story about parallel dimensions, and I worked on that pretty much all through college, and I never got past 70 pages because I was just like, what is supposed to happen? And every time I would sit down to write, I would be like, I'd like write a sentence, and I'd be like, I don't know what happens next. I don't know where this is going. I don't know what's happening. So yeah, I think the source of all of that, of why I kept getting stuck, I think was like the inner critic and like perfectionism, and also like you know, people had always told me growing up that I was a really good writer. So I was like, why, if I'm a good writer, why isn't this good? You know? And I think part of what helped me get over that, there are a lot of things that helped me get over it. I think it was but to be able to move past it somewhat, I think is like, I got into running and like stuff during COVID, and it was really hard, but I've never been an athletic person or a fit person, so I expect working out to be hard. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'm bad at working out, so like it makes sense that it'll be really hard and take me forever to get good at it. And then I realized with writing, I was like, wait, maybe writing isn't supposed to be easy right off the bat, and it is supposed to be hard, and like it is just going to take me a little bit to where I have to do reps just like with working out or something, even though I maybe have a little bit more of a natural bent towards it, doesn't mean that it still isn't hard to like get actually really good. So I think that stopped me from writing for like several years. Now I think I still get writer's block, and I think part of that is because of like you said, the inner critic getting stuck in your head. And it's mostly in revising is hard in its own way, but for drafting, it's like, I think part of the way I get past that inner critic, sometimes it's to just take a break and do something else. Sometimes there's no getting past the inner critic that day. But sometimes I just make stuff up and just let it, you do just have to let it be bad, you know?
Yeah,
like in the book that I'm working on, the first battle scene, I was like, I don't know how to write a battle scene. I was like, what's supposed to happen? And I was like, well, in Tolkien, and in some of the older fantasy books, there's a lot of music. Maybe they should sing as they go into battle. And you know who's never written a song before? Me. And you know also what didn't fit the tone of my book at all? Singing and marching into battle. So I wrote that, and it was in my draft for months, and I was like, I hated it. But if I hadn't written that, which was very cringe, there wouldn't have been anything for me to fix or to replace with later. So I feel like, yeah, you really have to like write bad stuff to get to the good stuff. Which is why it's so good that nobody has to watch you write. You know?
Yeah,
like it's true. So, like, that would make it so much worse, I feel like.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
So would you say your biggest hindrance is kind of like summed up in those things as well?
Yeah. I think like, I think specifically cause like inner critic, but also like perfectionism. Because I think I sometimes have I think most of the time I have an accurate view of how good my writing is. I would say like 60% of the time or maybe 60 or 70% of the time I have an accurate view. And then half of the rest of that time I think it's way better than it is. And the other half of that time I think it's way worse than it is. But even though I think I think it's, I don't, my writing is not up to the standards of the writing of like my favorite writers. But I think that's fine because I'm 26, and a lot of famous writers that you read are like in their 40s or 50s, or like they've written a lot more. They've got a lot more mileage. So yeah. I think it's like I feel like I have to let myself be bad. And so the hindrance is I don't want to let myself be bad. But you have to be good. So yeah, it's true. And I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Yeah. That's
we could go on.
That could get deep real quick.
Yeah.
Too. So, talked about what keeps you from writing now.
Yes.
What keeps you writing now?
Okay. Keeps me writing is, I think it is, I know, I feel like it's a little silly, or maybe not silly. Sometimes it's silly to talk about like an idea of like a vocational calling. But like, I know some people find that silly, but I feel like it's like the thing that I'm meant to do or that I like really want to do.
Yeah.
All the jobs I've had, like right now I'm freelancing part-time and writing the other part of the time because I'm really trying to make it work. So all the like real jobs I've had before this, not that freelancing is a real job, but whatever, all the jobs I've had felt like while I was there, I was like, this feels like a waste of time because I want to be writing. And so I think that's a good sign. And I think of that like it just feels like a thing I really have to do. And I think that keeps me writing. And then the other thing is I do really like enjoy it. Once you get past the stress about the perfectionism and stuff like we were talking about, like I really like my story and I really like the characters. And I think enjoying it and like actually having fun with it is like really important to me to like keep me going.
Yeah.
Cool. How about you? What keeps you writing now?
I think I've kind of had a similar experience with like other jobs and things like that, just being like, oh man, I wish I could like, I wish I could just be writing which I went through a weird period of time a couple of years ago where I was just like, oh no, has this just been my default answer and I don't actually want to do it? And I think that was because I tried to do it with this new project and I was like, it's not happening. Like the writer's block was happening from the beginning and that had not been my experience in the past. And I was just like, was this just a childhood thing? But then it was just like, but it just keeps coming. Like like living in the other world a little bit, which I don't know, that might be an exaggeration because I do kind of struggle to like, I don't know, when it comes to like the world building thing, like sometimes I struggle to even like describe what it is, but just being like, just seeing the like snippets in the scenes, I'm like, it didn't go away. And so I'm just like, that's really helpful to be like, okay, no, I really do want to get that on paper. And it's like, and I do enjoy it while I'm doing it. But yeah, I kind of feel the same way about the whole calling thing a little bit where I'm like, I don't want to call it that. That feels a little different, but like, I mean, I don't know. It's just been something I've like consistently enjoyed. And I think that, you know, it feels different doing that than doing other things. Like I have other creative outlets and hobbies and those are fun. And I really enjoy like doing creative things, but like reading or doing other activities that are like sing me in like a different story, and then being able to like have my own in my head, and then like really like get into that and try to like make it exist on paper. Like it's just different. And it's just like, I don't know, it really is just like, you know, more compelling to like keep doing it. And, you know, and it's fun, you know, I don't know, even beyond the being like, oh, there's some sense of like satisfaction in having done it. It's just like, oh, but yeah, also it's like, oh, well, I like these characters. I like this place. I really want to be able to describe this, like this image or this moment. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
Well, if you like to write,
Yeah.
what keeps you writing? I think writing can be a lot of like pain,
Yeah.
the artistic angst, but it's also fun, and it should be fun.
Yeah.
And even if it's having fun is like the first step.
Yeah.
It's an easy thing to say, but kind of true.
Really kind of should be the foundation of why you're doing that.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, cool. Well, all right. Thanks for watching.